Hey guys, welcome back to my channel. Welcome to my channel if you're new. My name is Sam and today I'm so freaking excited. Today we are going to tier rank all of the books that I've read so far in 2022, excluding July's books. So this is just going to be my mid-year tier ranking check-in for you guys. So we're going to go through January to June, everything that I've read. So let's quickly go over my tiers. So the bottom tier is going to be let's pretend this never happened. This is going to be the tier for all things I wish I didn't read, things that are just flat out bad, I wouldn't recommend to anybody, we'll just forget it happened. The second tier is who are you? These are for all my forgettable stories. I know they've got to be out there. A few come to mind. It's just for those books that you're like, I know I read this. Couldn't tell you nothing, but like, could go either way. Next up is Cool Story Bro. These are just for my average books, nothing spectacular, nothing bad either. Next up we have Had a Good Time. These are for just the slightly better than average. You've got average, you've got good, we've got Had a Good Time. These are ones that I enjoyed reading but didn't really stick with me too much, but I don't have any bad taste. Next we have So Good It Hurts. These are my almost 5-star perfect reads. Some of them might be 5 stars, but like the ones that destroy me in all the best ways. And the final top tier is going to be Nothing Will Compare, which are just the absolute favorites of the year, the ones that I have loved and will continue to love forever. So as you can see here, these are all of the books that I've read so far. If my math is correct, this means that I think I've read 72 books by the end of June, which fantastic, seeing as my goal for this year is 100. Great. So these are in order from date read. So I started with the Valkyries, I ended with The Crown and the Arrow. So we're just gonna go through, we're gonna discuss, let's just get into it. Okay, so like I said, the first thing that I read was The Valkyries. This is Paulo Coelho's book. He is the author of The Alchemist, a very beloved, very fantastic book. I really enjoyed The Alchemist. And because I had loved it, my boyfriend and I, Austin, we decided let's read some more of his work. So we popped on this playlist, or like this audiobook for a road trip, and there are just some things we don't need in this world, and this is one of them. The Valkyries is kind of like a memoir style nonfiction, but it's fictionalized, so it's part of his life and a journey that he did do, or he went on, but with more added, and it's basically his journey finding black magic. It left a bad taste in my mouth. The way that women are treated is so horrible. I hated this. I gave it 2 stars. It definitely has some good conversations. It's not poorly written, so it didn't really deserve 1 star necessarily. Austin hated it with a passion. It was like his least favorite book of the year for sure. Yeah, I wish that we didn't read it. We could have just pretended that Paulo Coelho only ever wrote The Alchemist, and that's just like fine. Alright, The Hollow Places by T. Kingfisher. This is an adult horror. It's now described as cosmic horror, which is, I guess, a popular upcoming genre now, which is just weird, unexplained horror. I'm gonna put this in Cool Story Bro. It was fine. I personally didn't love it. I know a lot of people do, and that's great. I'm so happy for you. But this is following her character as she moves in with her uncle, I believe, and his like curious, weird shop. and there's a hole in the wall and it takes them to the hollow places, and I loved the premise of this. I think it had great potential. I'm planning to read more of T. Kingfisher. I didn't think the writing was necessarily bad, but one thing that really bothered me the entire time was the characters. Their weird humor and weird conversations. It kind of felt like a token gay best friend side character. Like, I just didn't love the funny bits to it. Like, if I'm gonna read a horror book, give me the horror, give me the scares. Don't ruin the tension with young adult jokes that I just didn't need. Next up, we have Moon of the Crusted Snow. I never remember the title of this. I'm not going to pronounce the author's name because I don't know how to, but last name Rice. This is a dystopian, not dystopian, but like kind of like apocalyptic, but there's not zombies. I don't know how to describe this, but basically we are following a reservation and things start going horribly wrong. The city is like completely just turning on itself, and luckily because they're a reservation, they're a bit further out. But I love the ending of this. I'm gonna say I had a good time. I don't really remember a whole lot about it anymore, but I remember I really enjoyed it. It's very like atmospheric and there's a lot of tension, and again, the ending, satisfied. There is a sequel coming and I'm probably gonna pick it up, but I'm not like dying to pick it up, you know? Next up, we have Deadliest by Keelan Patrick Burke. This is the first Keelan Patrick Burke that I have read this year. If you're new to the channel, hi, my name is Sam. I'm falling in love with Keelan Patrick Burke's everything. He followed me on Instagram during Summerween. It was amazing. So, so good it hurts. Not quite an all-time favorite or anything, but I do really enjoy this. I think this is my favorite work of his that I've read so far. It's a Halloween spooky horror short story collection all written by him. And some of the stories actually had me scared. Other stories were kind of just like, meh. But they were still good. I think his writing is amazing. Next up, this was a carryover from December that I was just having a sluggish of a time getting through. This is My True Love Gave to Me. I believe Stephanie Perkins is the one who edited this short story collection together. I put in and had a good time. I think that this was a fun Christmas holidays. It's not all Christmassy, so just like winter holidays short story vibe. There was a lot of romance. There were some really standout authors that I'm really excited to read someday. I think this did the job. This is exactly what I want from an anthology, is just finding authors that I'm going to will pick up more work from. The next book I read was Cemetery Boys by Aiden Thomas. This was my first Aiden Thomas. No, this was my second Aiden Thomas, because I read in 2021 Lost in the Neverwoods, I believe is what it's called. And I much preferred Cemetery Boys. So good it hurts. I wouldn't say this is a favorite, but I did give it 5 stars, I'm pretty sure. This is following our main character who's transgender and trying to prove himself to not only his immediate family, but just the community in general, because they don't agree. They still misgender all the time. They're not really trying. And our main character decides, you know what, I'll just summon a little ghosty and prove my worth. Like, prove that I am the man I am. I thought the side characters were fantastic. There is some romance. I think it's really sweet. I think the ending blew me away. Not anything that I was ever expecting. I didn't know what I was expecting, but it certainly wasn't that. I really enjoyed this. I'm super, super excited for his new release. I think coming out in October, August, September, I don't know, later this year. I'm really excited. Next up we have A Winter's Promise by Davos. Who are you? Who is this book? I don't know. I'm gonna talk about this so briefly because this book has some diehard fans that I don't really want to have them coming for me, but I don't remember the plot very well. Nothing about this really intrigued me. I think it was rather long for no reason, kind of boring. I listened to the audiobook, which the narrator is good, but I don't know if it's like I was just not in the mind space for this fantasy or what, but I couldn't get into it. Hated every character, absolutely every single character, and everyone talks about a scarf, and I somehow missed that entirely. So yeah, we're moving on. Next we have The Nature of Witches by Rachel Griffin. So good it hurts. So good it hurts. This was fantastic. We're following our main character, who is a bisexual queen. We love that for her, and she basically doesn't want to be a witch anymore. She's decided she's done with witchiness, and come the eclipse, I think, she's gonna get rid of her powers, and we're basically following her journey as an Everwitch, which is a rare type of witch that has all elemental magic, not just one season. I really enjoyed this. I love the Pacific Northwestern vibes as a PNW girl herself. I am that kind of girly. I just love it. I relate a lot to the atmosphere and the characters. I just really loved everything about it. I thought it was great. I don't think it's quite a favorite of mine. I don't know how much like reread potential it has, but I enjoyed the romance. I enjoyed the characters. It was fun. Okay, now we're getting into parts that I don't know what to do. So this is Felicia Day's Embrace Your Weird. This was a non-fiction... I don't want to describe this. This is kind of a non-fiction memoir-styled journaling book. I'm gonna put it in Had a Good Time. I don't rate non-fiction, so I didn't give this a star rating, but oh my goodness. Felicia Day is a comedian and actress, I think. Her face is very familiar. And she wrote this basically just talking about how people should embrace their weird, and a lot of journaling prompts. I had so much fun. I actually worked completely alone in my office when I first started the job on a Saturday, and I just listened to this book at 2 times speed. Her voice is way better and so funny at 2 times speed. Like, it just, the comedy that she already puts in it is like next level at a higher speed. But I just sat there at the office and just journaled away. It was a great time. Next we have Aquarius by Sally Thompson. Nope, Sally Kirkman. This feels harsh. Oh no, we'll put it in Cool Story Bro, because it wasn't like bad, but I don't really remember it. I read this for my Aquarius reading vlog where I read books because I'm an Aquarius, what was recommended to Aquariuses. I'm going to do this again next year, but better, I promise. But yeah, it was fine. I don't remember any of what it said. It's just in one ear out the other, but it was a very fun, very short listen, just to learn, you know, a little bit about myself. I definitely agreed with some of it, but not all. Next we have Robber Girl by Estee Gibson. This is the same author who wrote A Dowry of Blood. Robber Girl is a queer retelling. Do I know the story it comes from? No. Did I have a good time? Yeah. This was a very good book. I'll put it in Had a Good Time because I had a good time. We're basically just following our main character who stumbles upon a group of bandits, I think, and they're basically on the hunt to find the Snow Witch who stole her brother. Yeah, good time, very short. I do recommend it. Earth Eater by Dolores Reyes. How do I want to talk about this? Where do I want to put this? This is it magical realism or fantasy? I couldn't tell you the difference, but this is following our main character who eats dirt to see where dead bodies are and how they died and what's happened to them. And oh, this one is heavy, it's short, it's so freaking good. I think this book deserves so much more hype. Everybody should be reading it. It's really, really good. I'm gonna put it in Nothing Will Compare. Is this an all-time favorite? No. Is it something I'll read again? Probably not, but I'm so happy I read it. I'm so glad it exists. I think it needs more hype. So, Nothing Will Compare. I don't think I'll ever read a book quite like it. Next we have The Bane of My Existence. A Spindled Splintered. I hate the title. I can never say it correctly. This is by Alex E. Harrow. Had a good time. I had a good time. I think this is a very nice, short, modern fairy tale retelling. It's a retelling of Sleeping Beauty, but modernized, and our main character has chronic disease, like illness? I can't remember. I think she might have cancer. And it's just her as she gets teleported into another realm and the adventures, and I'm super excited for this like mini series. I think the next one comes out later this year as well. Yeah, that's all. Red Rising by Pierce Brown. If you're new to this channel, what's up? I've been reading the trilogy all year. I started Red Rising in February. I think I finished it like around March. Then I started Golden Sun. Finished that like 3 months later. Now I'm on Morningstar. It's been 2 months and I'm still reading it. It's been a very slow journey with the series, but definitely a favorite. I've been buddy reading this with my boyfriend, and we got one of our friends really hooked onto it, and then I've made a lot of booktube friends, and Eliza, probably watching, she finished Morningstar and she's like, it's insane, you need to read it. I'm just sitting here like, I need to read it because I'm the only one that's behind and not caught up. So this is my call out to myself that I need to finish the book. But yeah, anyway, Razor Blade Tears by S.B. Cobsby. I don't really want to talk about it. I don't want to talk about it because like I am not the audience for this book. I read this for the Literally Dead book club book pick for February, I believe. This is just not for me. This is for an older audience, probably an audience that has issues with homophobia or is trying to accept and understand the queer community. But I think this book was not great. I don't like the way that this book cost completely at the LGBTQ's expense. This is just a book about their trauma and these two homophobic fathers coming together to accept their kids after death. And I just didn't like the premise to begin with. I maybe went into it with a bit ill feeling to begin with because I just didn't like the premise already, and then I read it and it's not bad. I think this will make a great movie. I might actually see the movie when it comes out. There's so much action that I just didn't like that aspect either, but again, I just don't love how all the topics were dealt with, especially the twist. Yeah. Anyway, next up we have an Encore of Roses by Estee Gibson. We don't really need to talk about it because it's not really like a book. This was the online free short story. This was a short, very short, online conclusion, if you will, to A Dowry of Blood. I didn't know this existed. I think Jan mentioned it in one of her videos and I was like, absolutely, I need to see this right now. You're gonna have to go. I love you so much, but and so I was like, absolutely, I need to read this like immediately, and I really enjoyed it. I thought it was great. Can you chill, maybe? But I think also because I'm just in love with the characters, I wanted more of the characters, so it was nice to have like that final conclusion because she doesn't plan to revisit the world. Alright, next we have Black Sunshine by Karina Halle. Where do I put this? I guess I'll put it in So Good It Hurts. This was one of those books that like, not my typical genre, not my normal style. This is a vampire smutty fantasy romance, and oh boy on the smut. It starts in like chapter 2 or 3 or something crazy. I really enjoyed the plot of this book. I literally binged this all night. I didn't sleep that night. I just listened to the book. It was very captivating. I really wish that the rest of the audiobooks were recorded. yeah, it was a good time. I did really enjoy this. I will probably continue with the series. Yeah. Yep, that's that. Next here we have The Cat Who Saved Books by Osuke Natsukawa. I think this will go in So Good It Hurts. I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very well done. I loved the characters. I loved the cat. I love a sassy cat character. It's just great. This is basically following a boy and his grandfather passed away, I believe, his caretaker. And so they're selling his bookstore, his used bookstore. And this cat just kind of shows up, can talk, takes him to these labyrinths to save books. It's just amazing. I highly recommend. I've been really enjoying, I think specifically Japanese translated literature this year. I just finding a place that I love. It's so good. Continuing on, we have A Man Called Ove by Frederick Bachmann. This book was so good. I read this in 24 hours. I vlogged it, thank goodness. I sobbed. I just cried buckets of tears. This was so good. So sweet. It was nothing that I was expecting it to be. I'm just obsessed with it. My mom still hasn't read it. She's a slow reader, so it's fine. But I have Anxious People on my shelves. I've had it on my TBR for so long now, and I just haven't gotten to it, but I really, really want to. I really need to, because I'm loving Frederick Bachmann's writing. He's got so many books that I want to read, so yeah. Next we have The Girl Who Drank the Moon by Kelly Barnhill. Cool story, bro? Cool story, bro. I don't know. Cool story, bro. This was fine. This is a middle grade that I think was just fine. I think so many people talk it up all the time that I thought it would be better, maybe. It was sweet, it was cute. I think the different perspectives were nice. It wasn't for me. Sadly. I really wanted to like it. Next up, we have The Paris Apartment by Lucy Foley. Trash. Okay, I'm being a little harsh on this book. It wasn't actually that bad. It wasn't that bad. I think that the second half of the book really excelled. I thought it was really great. I really loved like unhinged characters, messy characters. I think it had potential. What it lacked was atmosphere. What it lacked was character development a little bit. It lacked suspense. It lacked mystery. I could see too much of the plot too soon. Like, I knew basically we're following your main character and she moves in with her brother who is missing because she needs to run away from her life. And unfortunately, her brother is missing and she needs to find him. But I knew where he was the entire time. It wasn't a shock to me, so it was kind of a bummer. But the main reason that it's made it to Let's Pretend This Never Happened was one single line that honestly tainted the entire book for me, and it was a throwaway line that was extremely unnecessary about self-harm. And I was like, we didn't need that though. What was the point? And it just put a bad taste in my mouth, and I don't like it. Not a good book. Am I going to give it to my mom to read? You bet I am. Why? Because I think this is the type of book she would like. It's just, I think this definitely has an audience. It just wasn't for me. But I'm not saying don't read it. Next we have Turtle Boy by Keelan Patrick Burke. This is book 1 in the Timmy Quinn series of, I think, 5 books. And it is a horror coming-of-age novella series. Cool story, bro. I do plan to continue the series, but it is a little bit forgettable. Maybe because it's so short and I just have been reading a lot of things as well. It didn't grab my attention the same way his other stories have. It just wasn't my favorite, but again, it wasn't bad. I think a lot of people really enjoyed this, especially people that enjoy coming of age. I think it was spooky and scary. The premise was like, okay, we're going there. There was a twist that I didn't see coming. It was a good, enjoyable read. It doesn't stand out in my mind. Okay, next we have Follow Me to Ground by Sue Rainsworth. I'm pretty sure that my Goodreads review still says 3.5 question mark. I need to think about this one. I'm still trying to think about it. I don't know what I read. I don't know how to process what I read. I'm gonna put it in Who Are You? My ranking makes 0 sense at this point because it's completely off vibes, not star ratings, just so we're all clear. I gave this a 3.5, but I don't remember a lot. I remember that it is weird. It is magical realism. It makes no sense at all. It's so weird. And it's weird. And I had a good time with it. It's luckily on the shorter side, but I also don't know what I read. So, like, who are you? What did I read? Okay. Next up, we have a reoccurring book. Obsidian, and we're just going to talk about Oblivion because they're the same, by Jennifer L. Armentrout. This is book 1 in 1.5 of the deluxe series. And I'm having the time of my life with this series. I'm having so much fun. This is like your absolute 2010s picture perfect teen romance drama, angsty, everything you want the 2010s to be. Like, it is so cringe. So cringe. The romance is questionable at best. You got this book blogger, which love, points for that. You got a nice little book blogger who's really into this douchebag of an alien who lives across the street. Best friend's brother, aliens, super dangerous. It's a good time. It's such a good time. The love hypothesis. Okay. Romance. Star Wars fanfic. Didn't love that. Anytime they described Adam's character, I'm like, I don't want to think about it. But besides that, I really enjoyed this. I think it is a very cute romance. I don't think you can go too wrong with it. It's definitely not for everyone. It's very polarizing, but it's definitely worth the hype. Like, there's a reason that it has hype, and that's because it is good and people love it. It doesn't have to be like a great book to be good, you know? The vibes are there. It's fun. The main character's best friend irks me and annoys me how, like, the only romantic things that happen are because of her, and so it's like this weird little plot device. But besides that, I enjoyed the STEM parts. I dropped out of college, so accuracy, don't ask me. But yeah, overall, I thought it was a good time. I really loved the characters together at Starbucks all the time. It was cute. Okay, next we have Intrigue at the Vampire Ball and Escape the Vampire. These are written by Rachel Stark. I'm gonna put Intrigue at the Vampire Ball, Who Are You? And Escape from the Vampire. Cool story, bro. This is a novella vampire romance. There's werewolves. It's very short. I just wanted something to listen to that I had access to from Scribd, and they were available, and I was like, cool. They didn't really give a whole lot. I think the second book was better. There's very few ratings on Goodreads, and I think it's it's not well written, but it's not badly written, you know? Like, I think this is a book that I could see myself writing, so I think it's good for that. I think it's very forgettable, maybe because they're shorter, much hype, I don't know. Characters were a little bit bland, but I liked the plot throughout. I liked how it's like kind of a heist thing, and there's like stakes, but it's short, and vampires, and so like, yeah. Definitely will ask for higher ball vibes next time, but besides that, good time. Here we have The Last Pendragon Saga, Book 1 by Sarah Woodbury. I'll put this in had a good time. I definitely want to continue with the series. I definitely want to listen to the audiobook before I continue to the series, because this is very rooted in Welsh mythology, not mythology, Welsh history, I suppose. It is post Merlin, post Arthur's legacy, And we're basically following our main character who's assisting the last Pendragon, and they're trying to, like, I don't actually know what the end objective is. This is technically like book 1 of 2 that were combined and then later separated. So it doesn't feel like a proper story arc like a normal book would be, but when you get the context of like, oh, the publisher cut it in half to make it a longer series. Annoying, but understandable. I think that it was good. I enjoyed the characters. I'm hoping for some more magic and romance in the following series. Yeah, anyway. Next we have Before the Coffee Gets Cold by Toshikazu Kawaguchi. Nothing will compare. No, I don't know. Nothing will, I'm putting in nothing will compare. Something obviously does compare. We can just talk about it now, I guess, and that's Tales from the Cafe. I preferred Tales from the Cafe more than Before the Coffee Gets Cold, but I still enjoyed them both so very much. These are near and dear to my heart. Everyone on Bookstagram that reads it, I'm like, I love these books, and then they're like, oh my god, I'm so excited, and then I'm like, I hope you love them. So yeah, I am fangirl of these books. I think they're really sweet. They're short, sci-fi, time travel, which is interesting because I don't typically like time travel, but I love them in these books. I think they're so good. So yeah, I really enjoyed them. Highly recommend to absolutely everybody. The second one might, actually they could both destroy you, but the second one especially might just like break your heart a lot, because I almost cried at work from it, so that's fun. Next I have a graphic novel, I Think I Am in Friend Love with You by Yumi Sakagawa. Put it and had a good time. I gave it 5 stars because it's like a very short graphic novel. I think it's good. I think the art style is really unique and cute. But there's not a lot of substance or anything. It is very of its time because it talks about Facebook poke, and I just think that's really funny. But yeah, it's very of its time. It was a good time. It was cute. I just don't think about it anymore. But I did give it a high rating because I don't know how to rate graphic novels like this. So. Next we have Galatea by Madeline Miller. This is my favorite Madeline Miller I've read so far. This is like, what, 30 to 50 pages? Something incredibly short. And nothing will compare. I loved this so much. I would not recommend it to everybody. This is dark. Definitely look into trigger warnings for it because I did not. And there were a couple moments where I was like, I need to take a break. This packs such a punch for how short it is. I think it was so well written. It is everything that I wanted The Silent Patient to be and more. And it did it in way less words and so much better. It was absolutely fantastic. And as a non-Greek mythology girly over here that knows very little about anything, I really enjoyed this. I thought it was very good. Next we have Mimoth by Amber McBride. Impressed that I remember these things. I'm gonna put this in Had a Good Time. I do not feel that I'm equipped to give this book the proper rating that it deserves because it definitely deserves so much hype. I'm surprised I haven't heard more about this. I thought it was great. I think it is beautiful. It is poetry, but it is like fiction, and it's so good. And there's like a twist at the end that you do not expect. I think the synopsis sometimes gives a little bit away, but overall I think it's so good. But again, a little over my head because I don't read a lot of poetry and I'm not really smart either, and so like, you know, but yeah, I do recommend. That's all I have to say. Okay, we have The Tao of Pooh by Benjamin Hoff, who lives in Portland, Oregon, so I feel like I'm supposed to like be chill with him, but honestly I wish it didn't happen. It's forgettable, but I don't look back on it like remembering anything. I don't have any life lessons taken away. I think it just was so all over the place, and it got points because of this nostalgia of Winnie the Pooh, because of course, like, you put characters that we all know and love into something we're instantly going to feel a connection. But some of the topics that were discussed and said, I was just like, but why are you saying some of these things? And other things I'm like, absolutely, I agree. So it's just kind of all over the place for me. I know there are booktubers out there that absolutely love this, so don't take my opinion as like holy grail truth or anything, but it just wasn't for me. Next we have The Song of Achilles by Madeline Miller. I just put it there. Cool story, bro. I think that this story is good and nice. I don't think the writing is bad. I don't care about the characters. I don't care about their romance. I didn't really need to read about so much war because I'm just not much of an action kind of gal. It wasn't for me. Obviously there's a lot of hype around it, so it's obviously for a lot of people, but it just didn't really work for me. It is what it is. I just don't think I connected to the characters, but I'm also not really big on mythology to begin with, so I was like, meh. Next we have Golden Sun by Pierce Brown. This is the second in the Red Rising saga. We talked about it. I vlogged myself reading this, and the ending had me shook. I literally was jaw-dropped, so stunned, didn't know what was happening. Yeah, that ending will probably stick with me for the rest of my life, and I understand why everybody says that Golden Sun is their favorite, because I'm not gonna lie, I'm already excited to reread the series just because of this specific one. And everyone was always like, I love it, and I was like, really, why? Like, nothing's really happening, like, I'm not really that engaged, and then, like, the ending happened, and I was like, whoo, I see. Next we have Why I'm No Longer Talking to White People About Race by Rennie Edo Lodge. I don't know how to rate nonfiction. How do you rate nonfiction? How do I... This feels wrong in every way possible. Cool story, bro. I don't read nonfiction. I'm not a nonfiction girly typically. There's not a lot of nonfiction that appeals to me. I wanted to read this one because it's like super popular. Everyone talks so highly of it, and I think it has its place in the world, obviously. But I'm not the target for this either. Like, this book was not written specifically for me, and I think that it has great points. I love how it is sourced and very well researched and very well, like, has examples for every point being made. I think it's very well written. I'm not a nonfiction person, so I get bored with nonfiction. I don't like history. So, like, it's entirely on me, and that's why I don't rate nonfiction, because it's not like I have no... What the fuck do I know? Nothing. Absolutely nothing. So I don't feel like it really belongs in Cool Story Bro, because that feels like a stab that shouldn't be there, but I don't know where to put it because I don't know what to do with nonfiction. I'm so sorry. Anyways, 9 Lives by Peter Swanson. Fuck this book. I think this is gonna be on almost everybody's like least favorite books of the year. I think it's just bad. I think it was just poorly written. I think it was just a carbon copy of Agatha Christie's, and then there were none. There was no creativity. The ending sucked. The characters sucked. I knew nothing about anyone. It's so painfully forgettable. And then Peter Swanson just thinks that he can use the N-word like twice in a chapter. Like, who? No, we don't do that here. So we're gonna pretend that didn't happen. This is Life After Love by Imogen Markwell Tweed. I'm gonna say that I had a good time. I think this is very sweet, very cute, a little spooky, because you've got a boy moving into an apartment and falling in love with the ghost haunting said apartment, and then the craziness that ensues after with some black magic, and I think it was very nice. It's on the shorter side, and I think it was wrapped up really well. I really enjoyed the take on afterlife and all these different topics that happen. Overall, I thought it was good. It's not very standout-ish. It's not something that I'm gonna like constantly think about or refer back to, but I enjoyed my time. And there was a little bit of steam that I was a little like questionable on. Obviously, Imogen is not Own Voices. She's not, or they are not, a gay man. So it does feel a little like there's obviously a place for gay romance, and there should be some, and especially with smut like that should exist, but also there's a lot of discourse on whether non-gay men should be writing their romances for them. I don't know. I'm obviously not in the right to speak on these topics, but there is discourse around it, so it is something to keep in mind. Next, we have The Sweetest Oblivion by Danielle Laurie. I'm gonna put in so good it hurts. No, I had a good time. This is a mafia romance that I did not think I would ever read, but then I listened to the audiobook for 72 hours in the smut den, and I had a good time. It does feel a bit young, but it was a good time. Unfortunately, again, the next 2 books, I don't have access to the audiobooks to continue, so it means I'll have to physically pick them up and read them, which I'm just not sure how I feel about owning them. But that's the thing. So, yep, I read that. Next we have Peaches and Honey, also by Imogen Markwell Tweed. But this is a cool story, bro. I didn't like it as much as Life After Love, but it is really sweet and really cute. It's neighbors falling in love and also like slight pie competition rivals. It's very cute, very sweet, but it didn't have the same effect on me. Next we have House Fires by Connor Franta. I guess I had a good time. This is like a poetry memoir styled book. I listened to the audiobook, which was narrated by Connor Franta himself. I grew up watching Connor Franta, and I haven't really been as like involved in his YouTube career since my probably middle school-ish days, but I really enjoyed listening to this. He writes very well. He has a lot of important things to say. It really packs a punch. I think it was a good time. Next though was less of a good time. We have Bluettes by Maggie Nelson. I have more books that I wish didn't happen than I thought. Bluettes is a poetry book that definitely has some lines that I absolutely love and I think are so great, and then the rest of it I'm like, meh. A lot of it isn't written by her herself. A lot of it is taken by other people who have talked about the color blue before, and then some of her personal life is thrown into it, which I did enjoy. But overall, I just didn't get much from it. I really felt myself just dragging, just like, I'm so over this numbered list. Can we just talk about something cohesively? I feel like topics were jumping. It just wasn't the poetry book for me, and I think since I haven't read poetry since last year, it was probably the worst book to pick up to get back into poetry. Next up, we have Siren Queen by Nevo. Had a good time. I wouldn't say that it was so good it hurts, but it was really good. I spent way too long reading this. I read this for Becca's Bookoplathon in April? Was that April? I have no clue when that was. Whenever that happened though. I think it was a good time. I think it's a good book. I think it is a little bit slow. The magic system isn't very well explained, but I still like enjoyed it. I didn't really question much of it. It was just like here for the vibes. Very vintage Hollywood glam, which I enjoyed. And yeah. It took me way too long to read, but I had a good time. Next we have The Girl Who Fell Beneath the Sea by Axie O. I'm gonna put this in So Good It Hurts. I really enjoyed the characters. I really enjoyed their connection. I really enjoyed that our main character had so much love, not only for her brother and the village, but just in general, and she goes to the spirit realm, which is very reminiscent of Spirited Away, and the vibes were just like great. I definitely think it could have been a little bit better, like comparison to Stephanie Garber, like almost there, which I really enjoyed. But yeah, this was just a fun, quick, sweet read to enjoy. Highly recommend. Descendant of the Crane by Joan He. To be honest, who are you? I listened to this book and I retained none of it, which I feel bad when that happens because like I don't feel like I'm giving a book a fair chance, but at the same time, like I just never once felt drawn into it. I didn't feel captivated by it. I thought it was just fine. It was good. I don't really remember anything besides she hires a convict to be her attorney or something. I really don't know. Next we have Convenience Store Woman by Sayaka Murata. Nothing will compare. This is my favorite book. Is this my favorite book of this year? Was I really about to say that? This might be my favorite book from this year. Super short, very slice of life. Definitely has a neurotypical main character that's not explained, but I really enjoyed the like connection you have with this character, if you do at least. I really thought it was great. I really enjoyed this. I look back on it so fondly. Like I get the character so much. Sometimes it's like, the mundaneness of life. It's so good. But also like being that outcast. So good. I'm so freaking excited to pick up Earthlings and their newest book, Life Ceremonies, I believe, which is a short story collection. So excited. So excited. Okay, next we have All Her Little Secrets by Wanda Morris. This was also for the Literally Dead book club, but I enjoyed it more than others. It's a legal thriller kind of vibe we're following. So much happens in this book. I don't even know how to summarize it. This book has so much going on. There's going to be a prequel that follows a different side character who also has like a similar potentially lifestyle. I'm gonna put this in Had a Good Time, I think. It's not like equal to some of the other things here, but I really enjoyed listening to the audiobook. I think it was very well done. I think the story is good. I think that there are some twists and turns, some shocks, definitely shocks, I think more than anything. But yeah, I think there's also very good conversations in there. It was an overall great time. Next we have Empress of Sea and Fortune and When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain, both by Nevo. I'm gonna put the Empress of Salt and Fortune in So Good It Hurts, and then I'm gonna put When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain and Had a Good Time. I think my favorite was the Empress of Salt and Fortune so far. It just really did it for me. I think that the storytelling from Rabbit was so good. You really get to know our main character Chi and their adventure as a cleric with their animal companion, I think a magpie or something like that. I think that the story was better than the second novel, When the Tiger Came Down the Mountain. I just wasn't as compelled by these tigers telling their story. I'm very excited for the third one in October to see where Chi goes on their adventures next. Next, I read Jade, Fire, Gold by June C.L. Tan. I'm gonna put this in Cool Story, bro, I think. I enjoyed this. I did a cool makeup look inspired by the Owl Crate edition. I, again, enjoyed this. I like the characters. There's queer representation in the side characters. There's a, like, I have to kill you kind of romance. Weird way to describe it, but yeah. I think it was good, but a little bit forgettable. I think it's your very stereotypical YA fantasy. It's everything you expect it to be. It has a pattern of the tropes, but it was a good time when I read it. So, cool story, bro. Next we have Sour Candy by Keelan Patrick Burke. Honestly, nothing will compare. And I know I said that I think I like Deadliest the most, but like Sour Candy is so unique. It's not what I expected Granted, I don't know what I expected going into it, but it was very well done. It was very, very eerie. Eerie is definitely the word to give it. It's spooktacular. There's some cool visuals. This cover is so cool. Yeah, highly recommend. It's a short horror novella. You'll have a good time, I promise. Next we have Onyx by Jennifer L. Armentrout. We already know. I'm having a good time. The plot at the end of the second book, Onyx, so good. Could have been longer, should have been longer. Like, cut some of the cringy romance at the beginning, give me more end plot. So excited to continue with the series. The Picture of Dorian Gray, we're just gonna, you know, pop down there and forget that ever happened. And yeah, again, I'm still not ready to talk about it. I promise, I will revisit The Picture of Dorian Gray in the future. I'll give it another fair shot. But this took me a year and a month to read, and I just can't. I just did not have the attention for it. I was not in the mindset for it, and I need to come back to it another day. Confessions by Kanae Minato, we don't even need to talk about, do we? Like, all-time favorite. So fucking good. Again, Japanese translated fiction is just working for me. I will recommend this book to everybody who breathes. It's so good. It is twisty. Her pacing is like perfect, but it doesn't feel like it at the time. Like, it is just a book that like you could just talk about forever. I recommend it so highly. It's so good. If you read it, go watch the live show for the Lily Dead Book Club, because we just like, everybody goes so in detail about what happens, and it's just so good. It is so good. Okay, anyways, moving on. We've got Aether by Loputney. We'll say, who are you? Because I truly, I don't know. This wasn't really a book read. This was more like a picture book, an archive of the author's incredible art style, I might add. Like, it is beautiful, beautiful art. And if you are wanting to just look at art, I highly recommend it. But there's like a 12-page graphic novel at the end that was very poorly translated. I'm not sure on whose part, not the author's. I don't know if it was the publisher or Scribd or what happened. Poorly translated from Italian. So you couldn't really read it. But again, pretty pictures. I did indulge in this book, but it's not really a book. Okay. Next we have Little Monsters by Russ Anderson Jr. Dare I put this in So Good It Hurts? Because truly, wow, what a creative concept. I genuinely think that this could be a longer book. I think that if he ever wanted to revisit, he could easily make this into a novel. It's super short, like 30 pages, 20 pages, like very, very short, but very good, very interesting. It's not where you expect a Halloween story to go. It has a very twisty take on it. I definitely would recommend picking it up this Halloween season. Next we have Mooncakes by Susan Walker and Wendy Zhu. I'm gonna put this in Had a Good Time. I really enjoyed this. This was the first graphic novel I really read this year. Yeah, so I guess in a way I should attribute it to starting my absolute love for graphic novels. I think it was very cute, very sweet, had great representation. I liked the fantasy. I do think the ending should have been longer, a little bit more drawn out instead of being so rushed, but you know, pros and cons. I think it was a good time overall. The Prince and the Dressmaker by Jen Wong. Look at this cover. Look at this book. I love this book so much. I never thought that I could love a graphic novel the way I do now, and this one definitely has done it for me. I cannot wait to own a physical copy. I think this is something I could read time and time and time again. I loved all the characters. I loved the message at the end. I loved the queer representation and the acceptance, and just everything about it was so good. And it definitely deserves more hype. I've definitely seen it around, People talk about it, but it deserves more hype. Okay, next we will talk about both of these at the same time. We have Heartstopper Volume 1 and Volume 2. Of course. Of course, of course. I absolutely love these. If you're new to my channel, hi, I'm obsessed with Heartstopper like the rest of the booktube community. I'm obsessed with the show even more so, but I'm obsessed with the graphic novels too. I just love these characters so much. Okay, that's all I have to say though. Okay, we're not gonna go too far into it. Next we have Blue is the Warmest Color by Jewel Moreau. This is the book I thought about when I wrote So Good It Hurts. I wouldn't say this is like a favorite graphic novel. Honestly, I think it was boring at times, but it destroyed me. I almost cried. I definitely got teary-eyed. It definitely hurt so much. My Goodreads review is literally just ouch. Ouch. I look back on it fondly. I definitely would like to see the movie adaptation of this because it probably will go into a bit more detail of what's going on, but definitely check trigger warnings. This does have queer abuse representation, which I definitely think has a place in literature, needs to be talked about more, but it is also hard to talk about abusive relationships, and it also deals with drug addiction, so be wary going into it. Okay, next we have The Midnight Bargain by C.L. Polk. We're gonna put this in cool story, bro. This was a soft DNF that I decided to pick back up, and it was good the second time around. Once I got past like the 25% mark where I DNF'd it, got a bit better, started picking up. This is all about a young witch, sort of, who is going through the bargaining season. She needs to find someone to marry who has money to help take care of her family's debt, but she also doesn't want to give up her magic, which tends to happen when you get married. The women lose their magic, and so she's fighting back and forth between what her responsibilities to her family are and what she feels that she owes herself. And I think it is good. I think it is forgettable. I think it is not the book for me, but I think it's definitely for some people. I know Kayla over at Books and Lala loved it, so like there are people who enjoy this, and that is great. It just was not for me. I didn't really connect with the characters. I didn't really care about the sprites, and so yeah. Next we have Only a Monster by Vanessa Lynn. Honestly, who are you? And why do you have a sequel and potentially 2 other books coming? Like, why? What happened? I don't know. She's a monster who can time travel by stealing other people's time. It was not for me. This is one of those books that I'm like, oh yeah, that's right. I hate time travel in books. I'm not into it unless it's done well. And I was not given the proper vibes. Like, if you're going to go back in time, give me the atmosphere that I can enjoy, because this just was not it for me. I could not do it. I'm so sorry. I will probably continue with the series though, with that said, because I want to see where it goes and why it's getting a sequel. I definitely don't think it needs one. It definitely like ended, and if it had a cliffhanger, I don't remember it at all. So yeah, the romance was annoying. The plot was fine. The characters kind of boring. Yeah, just you know. Anyways, The Wrath and the Dawn by Renee Audier. We're just gonna right to the top. This book got me out of a slump. This book means so much to me. I love the romance. I've gushed about it so many times on my channel now. Love the characters. So excited to finish this duology, but I also don't want it to end, which is why we can talk about, I guess, these next 3, which are the 0.25, the 1.5, and the 0.5. Do I remember which one is which though? No, not really. The Moth and the Flame, which is the 2.5, we'll get that in Cool Story, bro, because honestly, I did not care about those characters. That's not what I was here for. The Crown and the Arrow, we're just gonna stick on the end here. And Had a Good Time, and then The Mirror and the Maze we're gonna put in So Good It Hurts because I'm just obsessed with him. I love the Caliph so much. So, yeah, highly recommend. If you are if you like a desert fantasy, highly recommend. If you like fantasy romance, highly recommend. If you love enemies to lover, I'm going to kill you in your sleep, highly recommend. Like, it's so good. And the final book we have to talk about is The Girl from the Sea by Molly Knox Ostertag. Honestly, I'm gonna put it in Cool Story, bro. And that's not because How to Get Time is full. It's just because it was a cool story. It was fine. I think this has a place in literature because, you know, it's a coming of age, discovering your identity, coming to terms with who you are and accepting that you can show it at any point in your life. You don't have to move on to college to live your queer life and be happy. Like, you can do it now. And I think, again, the message is so good. It has a place in literature. This is going to be very important for a lot of people to read, especially a younger audience, which it's targeted to. I think the art style, the color palette were great. I just think that the story for myself was a little bit bland, a little bit slow. Like, it definitely, I don't know, it just didn't really work for me. But it was good, so like, definitely give it a read if you're interested. But yeah, this is it. This is my tier ranking. We did it. Been sitting here for over an hour talking about books, so we'll see how long this video is. I hope you enjoyed. I would love to know what are some of your favorite books from this year because I would love to read them. See if you have good taste, you know? I love judging people. I hope you enjoyed this video. I always have really fun time tier ranking. I honestly I'm sitting on one from last year that I want to post. I love tier rankings. They're so much fun. It's just a good way to talk about all the books. Like, there's a lot of books to talk about and I just did in an hour. It's great. Anyway, feel free to give this video a like if you enjoyed. Subscribe down in the area in which you subscribe. Subscribe below. I'm gonna go now. I hope you guys enjoyed. I will see you guys very soon with my next video. Goodbye.